Hi, I'm John Corvino. People sometimes ask me, why do you gay people want to get married anyway? You're trying to be just as miserable as the rest of us? And when I think about this question, I always come back to two fundamental truths. Relationships are good for people, and marriage is good for relationships. When I say that relationships are good for people, I mean sure they make us happy, and many of us aspire to happily ever after. But there's more to it than that. When you have someone to come home to at night, to wake up with in the morning, to share life's joys and sorrows with, this can help you grow, get you outside of yourself. Ultimately, it can make us better people. But this sort of thing is challenging to do over time. It's one thing when you're in the early throes of passion. It's another when you have to start dealing with his irritating habits, his morning breath, his penchant for Celine Dion albums. When you have to deal with the sickness part of in sickness and in health, or with mortgages, or with all of the other things that life throws at you. And so, marriage is good for relationships. Partly by surrounding these relationships with a certain set of legal tools to create next of kin, so that when one person is in the hospital, the other person can visit and make decisions in the event of incapacity. If one person dies, the other person can get bereavement leave, make funeral decisions, maybe get Social Security benefits. If one person is a foreigner, the other person can help secure residency for that person. Might not seem like a big deal to you, unless you happen to fall in love with someone who's not an American citizen. If one person gets into legal trouble, the other person cannot be forced to testify against that person. Might not seem like a big deal to you, unless you happen to be dating a criminal. But what this does is create a certain zone of privacy around the relationship that ultimately can be quite healthy. And if the relationships break up, as relationships sometimes do, there's a set of laws in place to help that go more smoothly. People don't often realize this, but one important reason for same-sex marriage is same-sex divorce. But marriage isn't just about legal incidents. It's also about social support. When you stand in front of your friends and family and commit to someone, and your family and friends hold you to that commitment, that also can help sustain the relationship for the long haul. And that's not just good for the two of you, it's also good for the people around you. Because happy, stable couples make for happy, stable neighbors. When there's someone whose job it is to take care of you and vice versa, that means that other people are less likely to have to do that. So same-sex marriage has a net social benefit as well. All right, you might say. But why do you have to call it marriage? Can't you call it civil unions or domestic partnership or something like that? Well, one thing I'd say is that that would be better than nothing, which is currently what we have in most states. But I also don't think that's the right way to go. Anytime we have a hodgepodge of different statuses all trying to do the same thing, that tends to create legal confusion, especially as people move from state to state. And one thing we found in history is that anytime we try to do separate but equal, it never really turns out to be equal. It's like giving people half a loaf, or giving them the full loaf but saying you can't call it bread. The fact is, if people are willing to commit to this kind of relationship, that's marriage, and we should give them all of the rights and responsibilities that go with that.